Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about specifically ICV2's 2017 numbers report on the tabletop role-playing game industry, okay? And but this is all tabletop games, okay? And their numbers that they gave for the industry, and specifically how they relate to Dungeons & Dragons, and specifically how they actually relate to tabletop role-playing games overall. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so first of all, the first group, so they group them into these really unique groups, right? So the first grouping is collectible games. So this would be Magic the Gathering, right? And basically Wizards of the WizKids, HeroClix, right? That's a collectible game, right? Where you are purchasing the product and you don't really know what you're going to get in that product, right? So Magic the Gathering was really the very first of these type of games, and it's the largest area of the entire market. It is $725 million, right? Out of 1.5. The entire industry is $1.5 billion, and collectible games amount to $725 million. That is a ton of money, right? Board games are next. Board games were $340 million. $340 million. After that is non-collectible miniatures. Non-collectible miniatures are $275 million. The next grouping was cards, and specifically cards and dice games. That's $150 million. And in absolute last place, not even breaking triple digits, the entire market for tabletop role-playing games, of which Dungeons & Dragons is one, Shadowrun, Call of Cthulhu, Blades in the Dark, Index Card RPG, Tiny D6, a million other games, not a million, but a lot of other tabletop role-playing games. That entire industry is $55 million. It is the smallest amount, and it's barely a third of card and dice games, right? So tabletop role-playing games do not sell in large numbers. They really don't. They sell in super, super tiny numbers, very, very small numbers, and it is a very small market. To put this in perspective, okay, let's talk about Eric Schmidt. He's a Google executive, right? And Steven Spielberg. These are two of the richest men in America, right? They both own the same type of item. They both own a super yacht. They each own a super yacht, okay? The super yacht is classified as a yacht that is over 100 feet long, right? It's over 100 meters long. That's 300 feet long, right? And has a crew of 50, right? Now, how much does a super yacht cost? A super yacht costs $300 million. That means that both Eric Schmidt and Steven Spielberg both own a vehicle that is 5 times larger than the entire industry of the tabletop role-playing game. All the tabletop role-playing games sold in a single year aren't even 1/5 of a vehicle owned by Eric Schmidt and owned by and another vehicle owned by Steven Spielberg, right? So our entire industry is smaller than the price tag on one single individual product within the yacht industry. Right? It's that tiny, right? Now, honestly, that makes tears come out of my face. That does not make me happy. It makes me very, very sad, okay? It really is. It's very, very sad. Even in the tabletop game, tabletop role-playing games are so minute. 1 out of every $25 in the tabletop games industry, if you take $25, right, that was spent in 2017 for a tabletop game, only one of those $25 would have been spent on a tabletop role-playing game. Only 1 out of every $25. That means 24 out of every $25 is going to some other type of game. It's heartbreaking, right? Like, I don't understand why why tabletop role-playing games linger at the back of the pack. It's very frustrating. Okay, now I got some good news. All right, all that is very bad news. It is very sad making, and it's just not great. Okay, but I got some good news for you. Okay, basically, so here's the issue: we make no money. It is my strong opinion that everyone working in every single person working in the tabletop role-playing game industry full-time is doing that as a labor of love. They are passionate about their work, and it's almost a certainty that every single one of them could make far more money if they went external to that industry. Far more money, right? It's just a fact, right? Because almost all of them, there are no stupid, tabletop role-playing designers. They're all, like, by selection. They're all intelligent, creative, and adaptive. They're all intelligent, creative, and artistic, right? It's just by design, right? Now, it is self-selecting for that, right? Now, here's the good news, right? So we see that the entire industry is only $55 million. It's just this tiniest little industry, tiny niche industry. So what is the good news? Well, the reality is our political, our culture, and our social reach goes 100-fold beyond that number. Tabletop role-playing games truly impact our politics, our culture, and our society at a massive rate beyond that. The list is very long. The show Community, the show Stranger Things, even the movie Mazes and Monsters, the movie Dungeons and Dragons, right? There are The Simpsons. There are the list goes. I think there's easily 100 television shows and movies. E.T., right? There's easily 100 television shows and movies that have name-checked Dungeons and Dragons, and it is it is really known culturally, right? It is known. It's a nerd flag, right? It's a geek banner. And the reality is, even though we don't really have many Americans who play tabletop role-playing games, there are almost no Americans who don't know what Dungeons & Dragons is, right? And that's exciting. And it goes even further than that. And here's the thing. So the people who are working in the industry, one thing we really do need to realize and just be thankful for is they are doing it out of labor of love. Almost all of them could be making more money elsewhere, right? So why else are companies still making tabletop role-playing games? And why are people playing? Why do companies still take the time to make tabletop role-playing games? Well, one of the things I think is that the Dungeons and Dragons, okay, at the macro level, I think it's exactly like podcasts. And I think and companies are understanding now that tabletop role-playing games are about mind share, right? So if you get your product attached to a tabletop role-playing game, you can gain mind share, right? You can really get goodwill and a portion of the thoughts of a very select group of people. Now, who are those people? Well, one, this is a big deal. You get mind share from a mind collective of very, very high quality. So who are playing tabletop role-playing games? Well, it's pretty incredible. There are quants playing tabletop role-playing games. There are artists playing tabletop role-playing games. There are starters, people who start companies, people who start products, right? There are starters, right? There are innovators, right? There are designers. These are the people who play, design, run tabletop role-playing games. And so while we have a super, super tiny amount of money that is attached to our hobby, our political and cultural and social impact is far greater than the money itself. And our mind share, right? We don't have mind share across the public, right? But we absolutely do have mind share across the smartest people of the American nation. We really do. And we have an we have an outsized representation within that community of intelligent people, of creative people, and artistic people. Now, it is my strong opinion that this is not fully understood by any companies, right? Like, I really feel there should be strong product placement. There should be product placement within tabletop role-playing games the way there are in movies. I'm really passionately, strongly interested in this topic. I would start my own company and do it myself, but I'm burdened with an amazing, awesome job in information technology, which pays me quite well and has done extremely well for my family. And again, I realize, this would be a long shot, but I really am strong. I'm a strong believer that just like podcasts, the smartest people in the world are the smartest, most creative, most artistic people in the world are interested in tabletop role-playing games at an oversized rate and amount. It's really, really fascinating. That is my opinion. Do you think I'm right or wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.